Imagine this. You build a massive financial empire by lying about $1 stocks.
You make hundreds of millions of dollars.
You serve less than 2 years in jail, and then Hollywood makes a blockbuster movie about your crimes and you become a pop culture icon.
It sounds unbelievable, but that is the actual story of Jordan Belfort.
And that's what we're diving into today.
It's a really compelling story, but it's also, it's deeply unsettling. Belfort scammed thousands of people, but the moment his story got turned into a product, a book, then a movie, the whole narrative just flipped.
Right. And audiences didn't just watch it, they almost seemed to be cheering for him.
Yeah.
So for this deep dive, our source is a really detailed video analysis that breaks down his whole life, the mechanics of the scam, the collapse, and maybe the most important part, the really weird public reaction to it all.
And our mission today is to unpack how this fraud actually worked, because it was more than just yelling on the phone. And then, to really dig into why he gets treated like this charismatic celebrity despite the crimes.
So the question for you to think about as we go is this. How did one salesman turn, ambition and just pure chaos into a billion-dollar scam?
And what does his tiny sentence and all the fame that came after tell us about how we see success?
Let's get into it.
Well, if you go back to the beginning, his ambition was just. It was off the charts. He came from a working-class background in Queens, born in 1962, but he was a hustler from day one.
Totally. The source mentions he made $20,000 selling Italian ices when he was just 16. That's a huge amount of money for a kid.
It showed it wasn't about the product. It was about making money fast.
And that goal gets really cemented in this one key moment. He enrolls in dental school thinking, okay, this is the safe path to being rich.
Right.
And on the very first day, the dean says, if you're here to get rich, you're in the wrong profession.
Belfort's reaction.
He just stood up and walked out, never went back. It was like, if this isn't the fastest way to wealth, I'm not interested.
So after college, he starts a door-to-door meat and seafood business. And for a minute, it actually worked. He was pulling in like $100,000 a month in sales.
But it was total anarchy. We're talking melting steaks in the back of his car, piles of unpaid invoices. It went bankrupt fast.
But that failure taught him the most important lesson of his life.
Which was?
That the product is irrelevant. It didn't matter if it was steaks or surfboards or stocks. The only thing that mattered was the sale. That was his superpower.
So he has the skill. Now he needs the right place to use it. That's how he lands on Wall Street in the 80s.
He gets an entry-level job at L.F. Rothschild, and he sees the culture firsthand. The suits, the quotas, the greed.
And the cocaine in the bathroom stalls.
Oh, yeah. He learned the mechanics of the market, but more importantly, he learned the art of the aggressive hard sell.
But then Black Monday happens, October 1987. The market crashes.
And Belfort gets fired, along with everyone else. But while all the pros were panicking, Belfort saw an opening.
And this is where he finds his gold mine. Penny stocks. The stuff that serious brokers wouldn't even touch. It was called, pink sheet garbage.
It was perfect for him for two big reasons. First, they were barely regulated. It was the financial Wild West. And they were super illiquid, meaning it didn't take much money to manipulate the price up or down.
And the second reason, the one that really hooked him.
The commission. On a normal stock, you might get a 5% commission. With penny stocks, you could get 50%.
50? Wow.
10 times the reward. You didn't need a fancy degree, you just had to sell.
And his weapon for that was the cold call, using his own technique, straight line persuasion.
It's basically a psychological script. It's designed to just bulldoze a person's natural hesitation and guide them from hello to where do I send the check in a single unbroken line.
And he's targeting, the poor guy in Nebraska, unsophisticated investors. The pitch was always something like, sir, this is a ground floor opportunity. Wall Street doesn't even know about it yet.
Exactly. Create that fear of missing out. The promise was always huge. A 10x return, minimum. You'll be calling me from your beach house in Maui.
And if the person said, well, I don't really understand the company.
The script had the perfect answer for that.
What was it?
You don't have to understand the company, sir. You just have to understand the upside. He was selling confidence, not a stock.
And it worked. The source says he closed a $4,000 deal on a single call. He knew he could build an empire on that.
So in 1989, he partners with Danny Porish, who was kind of the chaos to his vision, and they start Stratton Oakmont.
And even the name was a scam.
Totally. It sounds so prestigious, right? Like it's been around for 100 years.
When in reality, it was a boiler room in a strip mall. Flickering lights, mismatched desks.
The whole point was to sound legitimate while operating completely outside the rules. And he hired people to match. not MBAs.
No, he wanted hunger, not experience. Bartenders, college dropouts, local hustlers.
And he puts them all through a straight line training and turned them into these high-pressure closing machines.
So let's get into the nuts and bolts of it. The pump and dump. How did that actually work?
Okay, so the strategy was simple. First, you find a target.
The people Wall Street ignores. Retirees, working-class families.
Exactly. People who wanted to believe in a shortcut. Then, Stratton Oakmont would quietly buy up huge blocks of some worthless penny stock. Some company with a name like BZZT or YU.
That's the pump part, getting ready.
Right. Once they owned a ton of it, Belfort would unleash the sales floor. Hundreds of brokers making thousands of calls, all using the same script, creating this massive artificial hype.
And because the stock is so illiquid, all that buying pressure makes the price just skyrocket from cents to dollars really fast.
And then the dump.
While everyone else is buying, Belfort and his inner circle sell all of their shares at the peak price.
They mean millions in minutes. They were selling to the very people their brokers had just hyped up, and then the stock price just collapses back to nothing.
Leaving thousands of people holding the bag.
And at Stratton, that wasn't a crime. That was just Tuesday. The office culture was insane. Air horns, screaming, $2,000 suits, drugs everywhere.
The source mentioned a fire extinguisher filled with whipped cream and tequila.
It was a carnival. And Belfort was the ringmaster, pushing this idea that winning was the only thing that mattered. Excess was the proof you were winning.
But obviously that couldn't last forever. By 1994, the SEC started noticing.
Yeah, investor complaints were piling up. Stocks going from $7 to 30 cents overnight. It was too blatant to ignore.
Even some of his own brokers started asking questions, like, this company has no revenue, its phone doesn't even work.
And the answer from management was just close the deal or get out. The focus wasn't on the stocks anymore. It was on hiding the money.
Which got really complex. Millions of dollars being moved through shell companies offshore.
He was using his aunt's name for accounts in the UK, parking cash in Geneva. It was a massive operation.
And the most shocking detail, he used his housekeeper as a money mule.
It's unbelievable. He had her sewing tens of thousands of dollars in cash into her bra to smuggle it across the border. He called it asset protection.
The FBI called it money laundering. And while all this was happening, Belfort himself was just completely unraveling.
The drug use, quaaludes, and cocaine became a daily thing just to keep going.
There was that awful story of him crashing his Ferrari while high with his 3-year-old daughter in the car.
Just complete denial. But the real symbolic end was the yacht, June 1996.
The Naomi. He insisted on sailing it from Italy to Sardinia drunk and high.
Directly into a massive storm that the captain was begging him to avoid.
The yacht sank. They had to be rescued by the Italian Navy. He survived, but back home, the net was finally closing.
And the person closing it was FBI agent Gregory Coleman. He didn't just see red flags. The source says he smelled blood.
He started piecing it all together, subpoenaing wire records, tracking real estate deals that didn't match Belfort's income.
Yeah, things like $50,000 cash withdrawals at casinos to wash the money.
But the real break came from inside. Some of Belfort's own guys flipped.
They started wearing wires, recording calls, giving the FBI everything they needed.
And in October 1996, federal agents raided Stratton Oakmont. It was over. But Belfort made one last fatal mistake.
What was that?
In early 1997, while he's under active investigation, he wires $2 million to Switzerland.
Wow. And they were watching everything.
They were watching everything. That one transfer sealed the deal on the money laundering charges. He was facing 30 years.
So he did what he does best.
He sold. He sold out everyone, wore a wire himself, and handed over more than 30 partners and employees.
And in the end, he gets a sentence of just 22 months.
In a minimum security facility, a club fed. He played tennis. He met Tommy Chong from Cheech and Chong, who told him, you should write a book.
And he did. The Wolf of Wall Street comes out in 2007, and it reads less like a confession and more like a victory lap.
Totally. It's just a story about excess and fraud told like a comedy, and the public loved it.
Which leads to the 2013 movie, and suddenly the guy who robbed thousands of people is an international icon played by Leonardo DiCaprio.
But let's pause on that. While he's getting famous, what happened to his victims? The teacher who lost her retirement. The veteran who invested his life savings.
They got nothing, just debt and ruin. The court ordered him to pay $110 million in restitution. But from what the source says, very little of that has actually been paid.
Right, it's all tied up in legal loopholes, offshore accounts. He makes money from speaking gigs and book sales, but his victims see almost none of it.
So he's using the fame he got from his crimes to make new money, which is then legally shielded from the people he robbed.
Yeah.
It's a morally upside-down situation.
And today he's a motivational speaker, a sales coach. He actually teaches ethics sometimes, which is just
Yeah.
unbelievable. He wears the wolf like a badge of honor.
Which brings us back to that quote from Belfort. He said, "I was guilty of being greedy, but so was everybody else." And the question for you, listening, isn't whether he was guilty. It's why did we not only forgive him, but reward him?
Is it because deep down we sort of admire the hustle no matter how illegal it is?
So when you boil it all down, you see the blueprint. The unregulated stocks, the psychological sales tactics, the pump and dump.
And then you see the outcome. Less than 2 years in prison, and then global celebrity. The contrast is just staggering.
And the real cost was paid by all those forgotten investors, the people he targeted because he knew the system didn't care about them. His story really holds up a mirror to our culture's obsession with wealth at any cost.
So as you think about this deep dive, here's a final thought for you to chew on. What does our fascination with Jordan Belfort say about how we define the American dream today? And where do we draw the line between just aggressive ambition and actual criminal greed, especially when the person who crosses that line gets rewarded for it? Think about the people who are left holding that worthless stock.